The Dream 3 podcast, a very special episode because this is celebrating our first anniversary. Yes, we've been doing this podcast for 1 year, and there's a lot to talk about. We're talking hockey. We're talking soccer. We're talking the Indianapolis 500. Let's get after it. So we're back. It's a midweek, a little bit of a delay, but we're back in your life. Neil, we are celebrating 1 year doing this podcast. First off, did you ever think we would make it past a year doing the podcast?
Yeah, I thought we'd make it past a year. I didn't think we'd be in the position we are now. I thought we'd still be the only two people who listen to our podcast.
That's true.
We are. We just maybe have like 2 or 3 other people who listen.
That's true. And we can't thank the people that join us as guests, listeners. I mean, we're closing in on 2,000 downloads, which is great. People all across the world listening to our podcast, even though, I watch a lot of the sports card radio guy who thrashes a lot of the influencers of the sports card hobby. And, as we set out, we never set out to be an influencer type of brand. We were always going to straight shoot it, give it how we thought. And just like our sponsors, we're not investing ourselves in anything that we don't believe in. So that's why we bring in people like My Slabs, Slab Saver, Nation Golf, and Graded Card Solutions, products we believe in, not just any random people up, off the street.
That's right.
Oh, and live from Detroit, joining us right now, Josh Blackburn, a.k.a. White Freeze Wax.
What's going on, guys?
What's up?
Actually got the GM building right behind me. So as
that is
Detroit
the
as you can
cleanest
get
part
right
of
now.
Detroit I've ever seen.
No, it smells pretty bad. Don't worry about it.
Never mind.
It's making it.
So Josh, let everybody know why you're up in Detroit right now.
I'm in Detroit to defend your guys' DSX doing. But there's an IndyCar race here, and then I work in the IMSA series, and we're racing Saturday, and IndyCar's racing on Sunday. So,
Is it the duels this weekend? Is that what IndyCar's doing in Detroit? Is it the duels?
They used to do the duels, so they used to have a race day, and that's just like after the 500 weekend. That's just too hard on all the crews, so they're just doing the one race on Sunday.
Gotcha.
So I'm glad you had the opportunity to join us to talk tonight. We got a lot of things to cover. First off, and I wrote this down this past weekend because this was obviously we're going to step into it, but Real Madrid winning the UEFA Champions League final, their 14th league final, beating Liverpool, end of a Liverpool era with guys like Mo Salah. Like, what was your take on that, Josh? It feels like, Real Madrid's been on a pretty good run lately.
Yeah, and normally you would say it's Real Madrid. Of course they're supposed to win, but they really weren't supposed to win this year. Like, they weren't really supposed to do that well. They're getting guys like Karim Benzema, who's probably about 55 years old right now. He was scoring headers and game winners almost every single game. And, I mean, you think about the road, like after the round of, like the qualifying round, when they got to the round of 16, like they had to beat, Man City, Liverpool, PSG, and I forget the other team. But, I mean, it was like a murderer's row. Mm-hmm. And they beat all of them. And they got contributions from, Luka Modric. He's also like another geriatric that's playing for him. But then in the championship game, you get guys like Vinicius scoring the game winner. So it's almost an end of an era for Liverpool, but I mean they've got so much talent on there. They're still going to be back, but Sadio Mane, who is one of their top scorers, he's already said that he's leaving. I think.
Am I right to assume that Liverpool was making a run at Erling Haaland and they didn't get him?
I don't know too much about that. I don't think they would, because they've got Mo Salah, that they're already, like, he gets paid more than Haaland is going to get paid. So, and that's why Sadio Mane left Liverpool, because he's kind of getting tired of being second fiddle to Mo Salah. And then I think they decided to get that Luis Diaz in the winter transfer window, as kind of something like, hey, we knew we're going to lose some people, but let's get this young guy that people can get excited about. So I don't think there's two. I think from like 2 or 3 years ago.
So flip of the coin, or flip of the coin here. Vinicius Jr. So what kind a goal like that? What does that do for someone like him in the soccer world?
Well, what I'm noticing is that, like, all of his, it just like brings his star status up. I mean, he scores the game winner for the Champions League, so that's going to do that. Card prices, like the only Vinicius stuff that I really look at is those optic rookies and stuff, and those are slowly like gained about 20% of value. Even not even like the optic one, just the regular rated rookie cards. So,
now is he someone that you would target for, let's say, like the World Cup, because he plays for Brazil, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's a Brazilian, plays alongside Neymar. He's going to be kind of the facilitator to Neymar up front. There's a guy like him. Maybe there's an investment opportunity as he picks up steam moving towards the fall.
It is, but with teams like Brazil, they're so stacked, and you got to think he's still a young guy. He's like barely 20. I forget if he's in the 19 to 21-year-old range, and that Brazil team is just stacked at every position, so he may not even get that much playing time. So,
really,
I personally, like, the only cards that I really go for those young guys like that are the rookie cards, and if you've got the budget, some of them are pretty ridiculous price. Like, if it's a graded 10, you're going to be paying, a couple $100 at least right now. But
yeah.
It's just hard to, for me, just in my opinion, it's hard to base, like, is that going to be a good buy, as in, like, he's going to get a lot of face time and playing time in the World Cup? Now, granted, he might, but they still have guys like Neymar and other players that, like, teams usually like to play their older, more experienced guys, not the rookies in big tournaments like that. But we'll see.
Going back to Real Madrid, I thought it was a very good point when Real Madrid was playing PSG and the news had kind of come out. Real Madrid had been trying to go after Mbappe, and they had thought the deal was done and Mbappe was going to move to Real Madrid, and then that deal kind of got pulled out from underneath them. And now they're screaming, kind of like back channel stuff, and they're trying to sue Mbappe and his management, and then kind of to stick it to him. And I don't know exactly how the whole soccer world works in deals, future stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But just to have that little dynamic before that game made that game a little bit more sweeter to watch.
Yeah, like it's. I know these aren't the same sports, but it's kind of like this with Formula One. When drivers switch teams and stuff, they get very like the old teams. That like if a driver leaves from one team to the other, the old team gets very pompous and it's like a different culture than it's just part of it's just part of the business. Like they always take everything very, very personal, which is weird. So there's a lot of hemming and hawing, and they like from Real Madrid side, and they have to do that to appease their own fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because if their fans think that they've been that they were going to get this guy for a year, and then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from him, you got to have someone to blame, and
Right.
And all the team managers and the owners, they don't want to put it on themselves, so there's a lot of like lip service for blaming Mbappe and his managers and stuff, but it's all just to kind of deflect blame. But I personally was shocked that Mbappe stayed because he just seems like he's got like the weight of the world on his home country and his homegrown talent, and like it never looks like he's happy playing for him, and it like he's been talking about moving forever, but that could have just been a negotiation tactic. But
yeah.
Isn't it kind of what we're having with Ronaldo too? Didn't he kind of play off that kind of tactic too about testing the waters because he heard Mbappe was going to test the waters and Haaland was going to test the waters, so he was like, "Well, I might as well do it," and then he got caught going to Man U when I don't think he intentionally wanted to get out of Juventus.
Well, I think Juventus is they're another team that's kind of in the middle of money problems too, and so that's why like those good American players like Weston McKennie are rumored to be leaving and stuff. But it's although the interesting thing about that, he was over talking with Man City. He was supposed to go over there first, and then the story that I heard is while he was on his way over there, one of his old teammates or something texted him and say, "Hey, if you come back to Man United, you'll be a legend forever, and if you go to Man City, you'll be a devil forever." So, and it was just a last minute because that's where he started his professional career at, and it went well for him because he played well, but
yeah, it did.
Man U is a disaster right now, but
right, the team is.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears real quick. Let's go to hockey. I don't know if you got to watch, Josh, last night, the Oilers Avalanche game. What a shootout, back and forth. I'm expecting 7 games of this. Like Neil said, no goalies. Obviously, Neil is a big Avalanche fan. My father-in-law is an Oilers fan. But, for anybody that does not watch hockey, that says it's a tough watch, you got to sit down and watch. Watch a playoff game. Watch one period of a playoff game and tell me that it's not something you want to watch. It's great hockey. Not if you don't even understand hockey, it's great entertainment.
Hockey's great. I only catch the games while in the hotel on the road. But it's fast paced. It's like intense. And I know a big argument is people always say, "Oh, you can't see the puck. You can't see the puck. You can't see what they're doing." And like that's total BS. Because like if you could tell me you can see the football every single second that it's being played or being handed off or anything, then like that's a stupid argument to me. But
agreed. Here's the thing: if you can see,
like talking behind me and stuff, so it's
if you can see a football on the Chicago Bears field, you can see a hockey puck on white ice. That's all.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Because that Chicago Bears field is trash, absolute trash. there's not a speck of real grass on that field anymore.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
no, the Avs and the Oilers, and I was talking with you about this, Caleb. That's a series that, like, if you're in the hobby and you're like, oh, I'll watch a little bit of hockey, see what this is all about. Watch that series, and you will be excited about hockey. Those are the two best offenses in the entire league going at each other. The goaltending is going to be average at best, but man, there's going to be a lot of exciting plays. And I mean, Caleb, you may think it goes 7. I think it goes 5. I think the Avs just have a better overall team, and I think that's just going to outweigh even the offensive firepower that McDavid and Draisaitl have. I think it'll be a 5-game series only because I think from a matchup standpoint, the Oilers just don't have a defense. I mean, literally, Duncan Keith's like 98 years old, coming from Chicago. You have
he was great with
Tyson
Chicago
Barrie.
like 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And you got Tyson Barrie's your other best defender, and Tyson Barrie played for the Avalanche, I think 4 or 5 years ago. So it's one of those things where I see it as a lopsided matchup, but we're gonna get an exciting series no matter what. However many games it goes to, it's gonna be a super exciting series. And then you got on the other side, New York Rangers versus Tampa Bay, where it's literally a goaltender battle. Like the goal, like I wouldn't be surprised if each game is 1-0 or 2-1. Those games are going to be insane. There's just going to be so much great defense and goaltending, and it's like a battle of Eastern Conference defense versus Western Conference explosive offense. Sets up for a pretty good finals for the NHL. So I'm more excited about that than I am the NBA finals, to be honest.
I think, I think the NBA finals are getting overshadowed by hockey. I mean, the NBA finals or the NBA playoffs have been so bad this year. I mean,
blowouts.
The Heat Boston series was one of the worst series of all times, because if you're looking for, star power, it's like every game, one of the big name guys is out, or like you said, it's a blowout. There's no close games. It's all, terrible basketball. So the NHL has been super fun to watch, and getting to catch a game last night was great to really see. Breaking news that happened within the last hour. Josh, I don't know if you've heard this, but former Dallas Cowboy running back Marion Barber was found dead in a house today.
Oh, wow.
So no word on foul play, on how he passed away, but T's and P's to his friends and family. Marion Barber was a pretty darn good running back for the Dallas Cowboys and for the Chicago Bears. So that's tough, especially two pretty good NFL players gone in this week alone. You have the kid from the Cardinals, who was drafted by the Vikings in the first round in 2020, that was killed in Dallas in a car accident. So it's been kind of a tough week for NFL players back and forth. So pretty rough.
Yep.
Card wise, Josh, Neil finally moved his Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I had to move it. Just had to get it. It's not that.
I'm
I don't
disappointed
like
in
soccer
you, buddy.
and the long-term potential, but I just have no patience. I'm just gonna go out and say it. I don't have the patience to wait that long right now. I think I like to stick to my guns, and I like football. I like some of the QBs coming up. I think there's a lot more hype that I think I can turn and burn a little quicker. So, it is what it is.
Hey, stick to what you know. So,
exactly.
So sticking with what you know is great, but I want to know is how all of a sudden, if you scroll through Josh's Instagram, and he's fairly new to the card game, the amount of likes he has on soccer cards and stuff like that is like double and triple of what I have on my page, and I've been doing it for 5-6 years.
Well, Caleb, that's just because your cards suck.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sounds like we need to pick a new hobby or a new set of cards to collect.
Yeah.
You and me both.
That's true. That's true. All right. Should we get into the fun topic of the day?
Yes.
Yes, I think
All
we
right.
should.
Here we go. Topic of the day, and this is the title of the podcast, is the Indianapolis 500 the most overrated motorsporting event in the world? Now, obviously, someone has to play Shannon Sharp. So someone has to be Skip Bayless. So you two are obviously on the side of it is not. Neil obviously has family ties that worked in IndyCar for a while. Josh obviously worked in IndyCar for a good period of his life. Even though I am in racing, I am going to take the side of it is the most overrated motorsporting event in the world. Now, I want you to, Neil, you can go first.
No. You're going to go ahead and explain to everybody why your delusional thoughts are coming out on this podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
So why don't you lead the way with your stupidity?
Okay, so I will. So if it's the granddaddy of them all, if it is the biggest motorsporting event in the world, tell me why since 1995 it has only out televised the Daytona 500 one time. One time.
Now you're just talking about American audiences right there. So
okay. So then if it's the greatest motorsport in the world where the best drivers come to compete, why is it that the Indy 500 can't feel a full field and they have to get with other teams to make a 33rd car? Tell me why there are not drivers from different disciplines who take the month of May off to come in and race this quote unquote greatest spectacle in racing. And now, just like you said with the winner Ericsson of this weekend, nobody knows who he is unless you're a really super strong race fan who knows he has 100+ Formula One starts. He's a legit driver. But if you went around the 500 track and polled 100 people, how many of them could tell you who VK is or Sage Karam? But besides the Indianapolis fans, who could tell you who Connor Daly is? Because I think the difference is it's not there's a difference between a racing event and a spectacle. A racing event is where people care about the race. I'm going to say 70% of the people at the track don't give a shit about the race. They give a shit about the snake pit, wearing American flag stuff, cutting mullets, stuff like that. Not even caring about what's in the race. Yeah, it's cool, the pageantry, this and that and this and that. But when it comes down to it, it's about racing. And to me, it's not there.
Go ahead, Josh.
I mean, some of that stuff you kind of just described a Super Bowl right there. I mean, how many people in the stands of the Super Bowl are actually paying attention? I mean, it's most of them are
celebrity show.
Celebrities. Yeah, that's a celebrity show. But no, there are definitely problems with it. But like, I think everything has to turn into a spectacle now. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like 300, 400,000 people still show up for it. Like that, you don't get that for any other event in the world. So that right there is a big thing. And yeah, I could tell people in my section that I was sitting, no one other than me really. And you can see whoever's a diehard IndyCar fan, you can tell, but like no one knew who Marcus Ericsson was. And I think most people, race fans, will be like, Marcus who? And they're like, oh yeah, he used to be an F1. Oh, that guy. Yeah, okay. Because he was in the first season or two of that Drive to Survive Netflix show. And also Husky Chocolate, his sponsor, you can't buy it anywhere because it's
Swedish.
It's pretty much just a money laundering scheme for some billionaire out in Sweden. So you think that's a joke, but it's not.
No, but I mean, most racing sponsors are.
Yeah. But
Nikita Mazepin.
Yeah. But no, I mean, 300,000 people show up. That's and like we can get real deep into it with like the open wheel split in '95, and that like splitting the audience, and most people going out. I don't care about it anymore if they're gonna bring politics in it, but just talking about like the actual racing, the stuff on the track, that is like still the best racing that's out there. Like especially on the day where you watch, like, because Formula One races at Monaco the same day, and NASCAR races at Charlotte the same day, and I respect both those. I mean, I respect all racing, especially Formula One, but I mean that was a parade in Monaco. Like that is a spectacle. Like that track doesn't pass any FIA standards if you tried to make it right now. They only do that because it's, they all can stay in 5-star hotels and have their parties and stuff. But when you look at the actual on track stuff at Indy, you had a guy, Pato O'Ward, trying to pass Marcus Ericsson on the last lap going into turn one on the outside. And you had 3 cars right behind him waiting for him to screw up so they could pass him. So, I mean, that was after 200 laps still. So that's like, and in Monaco, you had 4 cars nose to tail for the last 20 laps, and you knew nothing was going to happen because they can't pass on that track. So, and the NASCAR stuff, I said I respected before, but I really don't. That's boring. That stuff is.
It's terrible. It's little box cars running around a circle track.
Yeah, and I don't mind circle track because Indy's a circle track, but it's just there's
nothing to it.
Yeah,
there's no talent.
Yeah.
It's bumper boats on a track.
And yeah, I mean, it takes talent to drive those Indy cars around there. I mean, you could see that with the 4 or 5 wrecks that came out of nowhere, just because a gust of wind blew, and Grosjean was one of them that spun and hit the wall because of it. I mean,
Jimmy Johnson,
yeah, and yeah, Jimmy Johnson was a 7-time champion for NASCAR, and this was. Now he did great the whole month of May up until the race, but as soon as the green flag started, he dropped like a stone, and he was down in like 25th place the whole race.
Yep.
But I mean, it's hard to explain the whole pageantry and like the whole like event without you being there. All I can say is if you show up to that event, you will love it and want to go the rest of your life. Like
100%.
Yeah.
From the Coca-Cola lot all the way to the state or all the way to the track.
Oh yeah.
There is a lifetime of events you see on the way there that are worth coming back for.
Oh yeah. And hell, I don't even care about the people in the snake pit, like the kids that are just having fun with that. I mean, they still all had to pay to get in there. So I think it's awesome that they have a big old concert there. Like they had Deadmau5 and Steve Aoki playing that. Like those are big names. So, but I mean, you got to do different stuff to keep people's attention on it now and keep people wanting to go. And I think they're doing that with that snake pit, the whole concert stuff on.
But does that not water down the pageantry that is supposed to be this? I
think it just changes it.
No, it's all a part of it. Think about Monaco. Monaco's entire purpose is every celebrity goes there just to look cool.
Yeah.
They don't watch the race. It's not about the race. It's about being at the race.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Here, I'll give you the numbers. I have the numbers from NBC's broadcast. Indy 500.
So
2.69 Nielsen rating with 4.618 million views. The NASCAR event the same day, 2.2 Nielsen rating with 3.89 million views. Formula One Monaco, 0.76 Nielsen rating with 1.39 million views.
That's also Monaco was on at 9 o'clock in the morning.
No, Monaco was delayed.
till 10. Okay, so 10.
So they had an extra hour to get more views.
So either way, IndyCar's still down 1.5 million views from the year before. And here's another part of my beef that will go with that. If this is the biggest sporting event in the world, why is it still blacked out on local television? Don't tell me it's because the seats aren't filled, because this is supposed to be the packedest race of all time, but I have to drive 100 miles outside of the circle of Indianapolis to see it.
I mean, was it black? I thought it wasn't.
It's all money.
Out.
It's the same reason. It's the same exact reason why they black out your local Columbus Blue Jackets game when I'm here in Columbus. It's all about money. It's all about money.
Yeah.
They black it out so that way you go to the game.
And that too, I think. Like I'm not going to try and make excuses. I mean, those TV numbers, if you want to compare them, they're not great, obviously. But if you
but here's the other thing. Miami, so F1 when they came to Miami, and that was supposed to be the biggest spectacle that F1's ever had, 2.7 million views.
Yeah.
That was it.
But F1's not an American sport.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you, it's Indy's not supposed to be a world sport, but the Indy 500 is.
But also, you got to look at like what are kids our age? What are they getting all their kids our age? I'm 40 years old. Kids today, like they're not watching ABC. You know, they're not watching. I mean, yes, at the bars they'll go watch it, but like, Neil, you were talking about, the Nielsen ratings for the F1 race. But if you go on YouTube, a half an hour after they've posted like the highlights of it, it's got like 4.5 million views already. So, I don't like getting stuck on just Nielsen ratings. I mean, IndyCar, IndyCar's viewing does not match that at all. Like they get a couple 100,000 views afterward, but you see all these like watch parties, like these YouTube watch parties and stuff for the race, like for kids that are in their 20s. There's that video game, the iRacing simulator and stuff. The groups of those guys, they get and race their own 500 and then like have watch parties for that stuff right afterwards. I mean, it's like I admit, IndyCar, the Indy 500 died off for about a good 5 to 10 years in the late 90s, early 2000s. But like it's coming back. Like the kids growing up now, they just have different ways of watching it. So
I'm just using it as a standardized measurement because that's the only thing we have for true standardized measurement.
Yes.
The fact is, you're talking about a race that happens once a year. If you pick any race across America, it beats out F1, and if we're going to just talk about the hobby, it beats out F1 2-1.
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't matter what F1 race there is.
I would only hope so, because for the past how many years there's only been one F1 race in America.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Monaco, which is supposed to be F1's big race. That's the comparison I'm making. The point is, I mean, you don't have 106 runnings of the Indy 500 and not be some kind of spectacle or some kind of, something people want to watch.
I mean, the Kentucky Derby runs the beginning of May or end of April, something like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who won it, but I watched the race like that.
Yeah,
just
everybody
it's
does.
It's something, especially if you bet on it, you watch it. But I couldn't tell you who won. I couldn't tell you anything about the race. But it's an event. That doesn't make it a bad thing, Yeah.
Half the old people still think Seabiscuit's still running.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, it's a thing to wear your big hat. That's all it is.
If things keep happening and you have to change some of the pageantry, the pre-race stuff, the no balloons. Obviously, Jim Neighbors had passed away a couple years ago. If things like that have to, continuously change with the times, does that help or hurt?
I mean, I think it helps. I mean, pageantry for when the race started in 1911 was a balloon race. I mean, we don't do that anymore for a reason, you know. And I mean, not like blow up balloons. It was like hot air balloons. They had like hot air balloon races. I mean, it just people's attention and interest changed. I mean, we've got F-22 Raptors flying overhead for the start of the national anthem. That's pretty badass. Like, you got to keep changing things to keep up with the times, or otherwise you're going to be left behind. You know?
Yeah, like baseball, they just die off.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to be baseball.
How do you get back to the point where the best drivers in the world race that race?
You have a IndyCar Drive to Survive show and promote
You know, they
it,
were offered that. They were actually offered that before F1 was, and they turned it down. Which is,
well, there's your answer.
Yeah. Which is,
but I'm saying, like, how do you get, throw out a NASCAR, IndyCar, or any form of driving discipline, a Kyle Larson, who I think is the only other person that you could probably throw in any single car that he could probably drive. Or if Brian Clausen was still alive, him still running the Indy 500, or a current top name F1 guy.
The biggest thing that I would change, and I'm sure they have the ability to do that, is like prize money and stuff. Because right now, the prize money it's there, but it's not prestigious because it's about $1 million just to enter in the car, and that's an answer to your question as to why it's so hard to fill 33 cars. It's because if you're the 34th or 35th entry, like, how are you going to tell? Say you do have a sponsor that barely pays like $500,000, which is still a lot of money, and then you don't qualify for the race. You've just wasted $500,000. So, like, it needs to be, if you qualify for the race, you get $1 million. So that's why, because I mean, right now you could convince like Richard Childress Racing or someone to put a Chevy car in there, but he even had a quote back in like the early 2000s. Why would I spend $1.5 million just to win 300,000? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But I mean, if they got to where the prize money was like the winner got like $5 million, and if you at least qualified, you get $1 million. Like, that way we'd get like different team owners and different drivers going like, hey, maybe this is worth a shot here, So, I mean, you had Fernando Alonso when his first race at the 500, he was still driving for McLaren, and he was just so miserable driving that piece of shit car at McLaren that I mean, Michael Andretti was smart enough to float the idea to him, because they were using Honda engines the same as McLaren at the time, and like, that was a huge deal when he came over. And the couple years after that were not as successful for him, but yeah. And I mean, this year you had Jimmy Johnson. Like, over the last couple decades, that's the biggest name in NASCAR, other than Jeff Gordon. But I mean, it's right now they have the product on the track. Neil, I think you would agree with me with this. Like, the product on the track just makes it better. Like, it's already is good. I think it's when the pageantry is there to distract from how shitty the product is on the track, like Monaco, that's when you have a problem. But when the product on the track like just makes everything better, that's when I'm not worried about the event.
It's hard not to get a little bit excited when a car's going 243 miles an hour.
Oh yeah,
right into a 90-degree turn.
Like, oh yeah.
and they're not pulling off the gas. They're just going straight into it full gas. I mean, that's I mean, if that doesn't tickle your balls a little bit, then you got something wrong with you.
Especially if there's 30 of them and they're all nose to tail. Like, that's what's crazy about the race.
And it's not NASCAR where you can just bump and bump and grind and bumper boat your way through. You touch someone's wheel, you're going to go 220 miles an hour into a fence.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of skill.
All right, Caleb. What if racing event is better than the 500? Me and Neil want to hear this psychopath answer of yours.
Well, let's define what's better. Are we talking about a racing event, or are we talking about the entire show? Because the way you guys are pushing up the 500, it's not just the race, it's the lead up to it. It's the pre-race. It's the race. It's the post-race.
It's tradition.
Yeah.
Super Bowl's tradition too.
Yeah,
and you've got
everybody
a lead
appreciates having the Pro Bowl until it turned out to be a shit show.
Yeah.
Everybody liked having the Pro Bowl the week before. Everybody liked seeing the 40-yard dash and the people trying to throw their arms off, and then a bench press contest where Larry Allen's putting up 80 reps. People love that stuff, and then it went to crap.
But I can't think of another
appreciate tradition.
racing event that is like a complete package, like the 500.
24-hour Le Mans.
See, now you're hitting me in the heart. So hopefully I'll be able to experience it next year. But I would say that has just as much pageantry. If I've only seen the pre-race and stuff for that one time, but that's right up there with the 500.
To me, that's the top of the motorsports world. Without 24-hour Le Mans, there is no motorsports world.
In a global sense, yes, I would say that. I would agree with that. Because, if you think about it, next year, just manufacturer participation, because Indy only has Chevy and Honda. And next year, like every manufacturer is going to be at Le Mans. And in like the main top tier, there's going to have Acura, there's going to be BMW, Lamborghini, Toyota, BMW, Audi, Porsche is going to be. They're all going to be back. It's going to be huge. So, yeah. But if you watch the pre-race for that stuff, they're green. They don't have a green flag. They fly the France flag for the start of the race. So, they do just as much pageantry over there as we do. So,
do you think maybe the reason why it doesn't have the 500 doesn't have its luster anymore is it's becoming more, I guess, Americanized to just pure tradition of American racing rather than picking up the global entertainment? Is that kind of where you're coming from, Caleb?
I think so. I think it's more turning into the Indy 500 and the Brickyard, which the Brickyard doesn't hold freaking nuts to the 500. Like 500's here, Brickyard's like toilet bowl water. It's a giant American meme of.
Do you remember when the Brickyard was actually Indianapolis more popular than the 500 for a
that's kind of during the
couple years.
During the kart years.
Oh, yeah. But that's still amazing to think now because they can't even get 20,000 people into the Brickyard now.
No. But to finish the point to you, Neil, it's every time I see it, it's a great American meme of cut off shorts and can I take my chest hair and type 500 into it?
Then can we respect its tradition as that's what it is? It's about America. More so than it is a global spectacle now. Maybe it's America's spectacle.
It's on Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
I would say it's an American spectacle now when back in the 70s and 80s, it was more of a global type thing. Think of the guys who won the race.
Yeah.
I think just like with anything, it's lost most of its pop culture relevance. And that means a global thing too. But I mean, I would agree with someone with that statement you said, Caleb. I would agree with that.
But it's like, you know, let's say you call it Americanized instead of global. It's like, what if, you know, let's say the pace car driver for the 500 was Mbappe. How many of those people would at the 500 would know who Mbappe was?
Probably us
Zero.
Three. Probably us 3 and 4 other people. But that's
so.
What's funny about that though is if you took that same analogy and then you put it into like F1, people would know who Mbappe is.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know? So maybe it's just everything has cycles. So maybe it's just a cycle now where F1 is, because I remember back, 20 years ago, F1 was kind of like, there goes Michael Schumacher again. Who gives a shit about F1?
And no one really gave a ton of care about it until it came to Indianapolis. Then everyone got sour when F1 and Indianapolis got into it, and then it kind of died in America for a long time.
Yeah. And then right during that time period, you had the rise of like NASCAR with Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., those guys, and Rusty Wallace. Like those guys were, carrying NASCAR, carrying motorsports. And then now I think we're right in the middle of a wave in which kind of IndyCar is down. Speaking of,
since we've been talking about it real quick, staying on the kind of the F1 train that I'm thinking about. So Monaco's, that was the last race under their contract. There's the tracks that are that have no more contracted races are Monaco, Spa, Mexico, and I think there's 1 or 2 more. So if you're adding Las Vegas next year, you have to take a race out because with the new budget caps, there's no way you can stretch a team 1 more race longer. Like, look at the Haas guys. They wrecked both cars in Monaco. Like Mick cut his car in half.
Yeah.
So whatever that replacement cost is, so what race is not going to come back next year? If we say that, and even the announcers say it, people don't like Monaco because there's no passing. Is that the race that gets cut, even though it is, F1 tradition?
I don't know if Monaco
there's no
gets cut.
I would say there's no way in hell that it happens, but I mean, they've cut Spa off the schedule before, and Spa is like another like great track that everyone loves going to. It astounds me that they're making money off of all these street circuits, because IndyCar tried doing that and it seems great. And our first event everywhere, like we had that race in Baltimore a couple times, and it sells out. They get a lot of people there, but what happens is you've got all these subcontractors who don't end up getting paid because, you have to set all the barriers out. You have to clear all the downtown streets. You've got to do paving beforehand. And if that pot at the end, we sold 100,000 tickets. That's great. So we've got $3.5 million that we brought in. Okay, well, we've got to pay these contractors $900,000 for all the work they did. There's a boat. Sorry. There's a boat right over there. Sorry. And so that's why we don't have any new street circuits for IndyCar or anything, because they never make any money. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how this Vegas thing is going to work, but I didn't see how the Miami thing was going to work.
It's cheaper. The street circuit's obviously cheaper than building a whole new facility. But if you think at Vegas is built on a grid system. If you look at the streets, they're just a bunch of squares, where if you take Long Beach, at least it's built on roads that are out near the water that aren't major access roads. You're going to take the main road of Las Vegas and have to shut it down. One, how are the casinos going to take this? Because 18 of the casinos on the strip are by two companies. So whatever they're getting,
they're going to
money wise has to be.
They're going to sponsor it.
You would think so.
Yeah, that would be a.
And
but
then
it's just, and you're
F1
not just shutting them down for that weekend. You got to shut them down or you got to have major construction on there for a good month.
Yeah,
altogether.
Who was it that took DraftKings as a sponsor? Was it a prominent name? Is it a sports team or is it I think it might be Bryson DeChambeau?
Could be.
So
I'm not
DeChambeau
sure.
takes DraftKings as a sponsor. Why wouldn't a casino go out and sponsor an F1 race that could potentially make them millions of dollars? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of trickiness there. You would think so. If it's the MGM Grand, how come it's not the MGM Formula One at Las Vegas or something like that? Whatever
it might be by the time next year rolls around.
Yeah, whatever the ridiculous number is. But if you look at the track itself, they're going to have to legitimately modify some things with the street because it's got 90-degree turns, it's got swoopers, where Las Vegas, like we just said, is a grid system. So whatever
maybe you redo the airport a little bit.
Oh, and they're going to have to repave because Formula One, those guys are, as talented as they are, they're whiny pieces of crap. Because
yeah, they are.
They do
not like rough roads.
Oh, and what they consider rough, we're in Detroit here. Our drivers are just, their heads are bouncing up and down nonstop at this track. And the Miami surface is smooth as glass, and they were complaining nonstop about that. And it's come on, what are you guys talking about? And yeah, the Austin track got a little bit bumpy, and those guys were complaining about how dangerous that stuff was. They're going to have to repave all of downtown Las Vegas to get it.
And F1 bought 43 acres for $100 million for the paddock. So having that there,
just have the paddock in the casinos. That's it. There we go.
Yeah, it's going to
throw it up top. Throw it in the top of the casino.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Build it higher.
There's that roller coaster in one of the hotels, or when it's casinos. Just have the drivers race around that
New York
thing. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. I think
Josh,
we got a good idea.
How plausible or feasible do you think it's going to be of Andretti getting a Formula One team?
I think it's inevitable, but there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. I'm not going to say too much about it, but it's a lot of promises and not a lot of money that's going to be exchanging hands.
Do you think Chip Ganassi and Penske try and take over and make a team?
I don't think they want to. Those guys, Ganassi and Penske, they're businessmen. They run their teams off the profits of their other businesses. And Michael Andretti, he is a smart businessman. I'm not going to take that from him, but his business is the race team. So,
is getting rid of Alexander Rossi the smart move?
I think it was more Rossi wanting to leave. Because he signed his extension a couple years ago and hasn't come close to winning a race since. So and now he's moving to McLaren, which is, McLaren's overtaken Andretti as the number two or three team in IndyCar. So there's that. But yeah, Andretti was really close to getting taking over the Alfa Romeo team, this last year. But I think the board for Alfa Romeo they were wait, there's no money exchanging hands here. It was all stock options and business jargon, but there wasn't going to be any money. So, because you have to have hundreds of millions, it's basically buying a franchise. You need to have hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. And I know for a fact that they don't. It's insane, but he's got his Andretti name, so that gives him a lot of leeway for that stuff. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I'm not saying anything shady is going on, but I'm just saying we would be laughed out of the building if we tried to start a team in the same way that Andretti is going to. I mean,
Neil, you want to start an F1 team?
We will give you 55% of the shares of our race team after we get started. Like, what?
Huh?
Okay.
So maybe they just say, you know what, we're bringing NTT IndyCar to F1. Ganassi, Penske, Andretti, they all form a team together.
Not a chance those three work together.
I know. That's their best bet, though, because there's nobody else who I think can bring in the money.
Any truth to the rumor are you hearing of Daniel Ricciardo in NASCAR next year?
There might be a chance he does like a couple races. I would think he would do the 500 before a NASCAR race.
I can agree with that.
And what makes that plausible is he drives for McLaren.
Yeah.
So that owns an IndyCar team. I mean, it's the same McLaren guy.
Zach Brown.
Yeah.
Bring Pierre Gasly on to McLaren. McLaren moves Ricardo over to the IndyCar series.
So Pierre Gasly can wreck that car as hard as he can.
Pierre Gasly is not going to be in an IndyCar. Half those guys are so...
No. Move him into McLaren's spot next to Lando. Move Ricardo over to IndyCar.
I would like it. Ricardo is not doing well in this new car.
No.
So, I mean, bring him to Indy. I'd love it.
How do you think Kimi Räikkönen's going to do in that NASCAR at Watkins Glen?
Oh yeah, Kimi. Yeah, Kimi. He's just old. He doesn't give a shit anymore. So
he doesn't.
Do it for
no
fun.
will to win.
But I hope he does well. It'll be interesting. But
all right.
My phone's dying, and
I think it's a good time to wrap up.
All right.
I have to get off of here.
All right. Well, appreciate Josh joining us from Detroit. Neil, obviously, like always, got to thank our sponsors, myslabs.com. Buy and sell all your slab cards, comic books, sealed wax, up to 1% fees. It's the web's premium marketplace for collectors and investors. Slab savers. Go to protectyourslab.com. Use code DREAM3 to get 10% off your order. Graded Card Solutions. Ship your cards safely at gradedship.com. Use code DREAM15 to get 15% off your order. And nationgolf.com. Join the fellowship at nationgolf.com. Once again, thank you guys for always joining us. This is our 1-year anniversary of the podcast. Here's to another year, boys, and we will keep after it. Until next week, we will see you later.